What we're going to talk about in this one is taking that one-time lesson and making them a long-term student. I have a facility outside of Washington, D.C. I have a little bit of one-on-one service, but basically everything I do, I've got people into memberships. We take them through this plan. We're going to set them up. We're going to get them rolled, monthly reoccurring revenue. They get their lessons, they get their packs, and I've told them exactly what they need to do, just laying it out. It's nice from a business standpoint because guess what? First of the month, all the cards go. I have my revenue set, and then anything else I do on the side helps me out. And I think we all would rather have this long-term student, this long-term relationship, than this one-off. And you're going to get one-off appointments and instruction. So how many people have a lot of walk-ins, or how many people actually have like a set student base of people in here? Just who has a lot of one-off, like guys you don't know, they call, show up, and they want that one lesson. Hey, can you fix me really quick? Who's
great?
Yeah.
That's a good
If
thing.
you don't, that's a good place to be. So what we want to do is when I'm lucky where I am 99% referral based as far as who walks in my door. I have a golf performance facility outside of Rockville, Maryland. And so I work closely with our teaching professionals. We refer back and forth. If I have a person comes in without an instructor, I will find them an instructor. I say, I don't want to teach. I'd rather do the other stuff. But it's the same from a programming standpoint. When they walk in the door, we do a full evaluation on everybody. The key to that first meeting is getting a wow. If you get the wow, I'm probably closing about 95% of my walk-ins to membership, and I only do 6 or 12 month. That's your two options. So that wow factor is what we want to talk about, and this evaluation tool allows us to get that wow factor really, really well, because you can make immediate impacts. My initial intake, walk in the doorway, do 30 minutes. I do a quick KVAST eval, go through the things, and we're going to go through step by step here. Before they leave, here's our plan. It's a yes or no situation at that point.
And this is where you can leverage your technology heavily to get that wow easier than a teacher that doesn't have this, especially with the evaluation, the biofeedback, and the tiles, right? Because now you can bring that person in, evaluate them, identify some needs for improvement, go through some biofeedback exercises with them, and then from there, load up the live capture with the tiles, have them do what you were just training them in biofeedback and validate that, see the numbers change, and that's going to really be a great sales process for everybody.
And this wow factor matters. We went to one of the golf companies to do a demo of this that was helping with marketing. Walked in, and I was able to evaluate 12 guys in 6 hours. So I got 12 people through. Of the 12, we gave them the wow moment right away. I had 10 basically wanting me to handing me credit cards, saying, when can we start trading? It really works that power. It's really that powerful when you use it and use it well. So let's talk about what we're going to do. We've talked about do the evaluation first. This evaluation is set up 5 6-iron swings, 5 driver swings. It should take a couple minutes. During this time, great time to make small talk with them. Kind of start finding out, why are they here? What's going on? What's their background? Me personally, I call it the jump off the bridge miss. Is one of my first questions. What swing, what ball flight just makes you want to throw your clubs in the lake and go? Because now I have an idea. We know if they had that miss, they probably have certain patterns, right? So when I start pulling out the data, guess where I'm going first? Which motions are making you do that? Because now I can quickly get you into biofeedback, show you what you're doing wrong, and you're like, holy crap, this is the coolest thing ever. And just for example, with this, it works with everybody. I have 3 young kids myself. My 7 and 9-year-old, I've only shown it once. We were playing with it, testing it. Every time my 9-year-old walks in the facility, Daddy, can I get on the little game thing? And he wants to play. My oldest client uses it, is 93 years old. And he actually could hook himself up and practice in it. So you really can use it with anybody. 4 main areas of this. After I do the evaluation, we went through all those pages earlier. I'm going to look at the position, the positions page, if I know that there's something wrong. but I immediately will go to that first page, that problem page where we had that none, minor, or major. Because if you see 6 majors right across the board, I can just pull that page up and be like, hey, check this out. You have major flat shoulder plane in the backswing. Awesome, what is that? Right there, I can immediately get them into biofeedback. I can show them what a good shoulder plane is, help them experience it. Because you have to remember, we talked about this in the last one, but when we talk degrees, this is all in degrees. 6 degrees is only 1 minute on a clock. Again, think of how small that actually is. 6 degrees is 1 minute on a clock. Very small. We were working on this with a very accomplished player that we wanted to get 3 degrees. This coach wanted 3 degrees steeper shoulder plane, just a little bit more. When we asked him what it felt like, what we saw was here to here. When I asked him what it felt like, he said he was here. That's what it felt like in his head. That's part of the reason the biofeedback in this is so powerful, is that tone is saying, you're doing it right, you're not overdoing it. Because most of the players, if they feel that, they're like, I'm not practicing it right. And they're going to go, where are they going to go? Right back to where I'm comfortable. Now I'm teaching the same lesson over and over again without getting improvement.
Jason?
Yes?
Could you just reference the significant difference between minor and major?
Minor is basically more than one standard deviation outside of the normal range. So think if you populate everybody in this room and we took an average, 66% of you would fall inside 1 standard deviation. Outside of the 2 standard deviations would mean 90% of you fall inside that range. Major is people who are out, like in that 2nd standard deviation outside. So in the outside 5% on both sides. Does that make sense to everybody? So when we say major, we're talking they're well out of range. Yeah, you're in big trouble. And so you might take, when you're going to that, and that pops up, go to the positions page, see where they are. Because even if you wanted to put them inside the normal range, that might be physically impossible for them. But I can change the numbers to make them inside that mixed group. So I might give them a little more play, kind of give them some success. You don't want them to do the drill and never get the tone.
I think there's 2 things to remember when we're talking about this wow moment. Improvement, not perfection, okay, especially for a lot of your club golfers. And choose one thing, right? Wow them with one thing. Don't try and move on then to another and another and another. You're just minimizing your chances of having that wow effect. So hook them with the one thing that you've improved. Doesn't have to be perfect. And then Jason will take you through the rest of it. Then make the sale.
Yes.
Sorry, is that based off of peer data?
I might use peer, I might use professional. Like the norms are based off professional data. So, but you can pull up that peer, because that's why we decided to put that peer group along with the professional. Because if they're outside their peer group even, if you have that fight, if say it's a 65-year-old, I'm not a tour player. Well, other 65-year-olds are here, you're still outside of that range. Right now it's just age and gender. As we collect more data, like I said, we're working on some ways to be able to pull kind of pools everybody's data into one place. Because think of how cool of a database that would be. Is we could pull every one of your captures, every one of my captures, Joe captures, without names, but the data populates into a program where we have, then when we're actually filling out the client eval form, when you have to actually put year and handicap and things into that page, but it actually helps improve the data. That would be, then you could actually pick handicap, age, and it'll allow you to then hopefully the point where you can actually pick out what you want to compare them to. So other areas we'll talk about is a consistency page. So if say you go through the first page and nothing's, maybe one minor here, nothing shows up, we might go to the consistency page. Maybe at impact, you're seeing that their torso rotation impact has 10 degrees difference. Think about over 5 swings, if your deviation is more than 10 degrees, that's a lot. So we probably have some sort of problem with rotation there. We don't know what it is at this point, but it might be something that we can show them. Kind of the goal is to show them their deficiency, but make them feel like they can improve it. Show them easy guidelines to make them improve it.
Make them feel bad, but not too bad.
Exactly.
Jason, you'll laugh at that one.
One of the guys we talk about, he calls it a pain point. You want to kind of give them a little pain, but not hurt them. And then finally, another one that we'll go to, and of those 12 guys in that one section, we didn't find a whole lot else going on. Tempos were really bad. And a lot of people assume that their tempo, I can tell you I've done this for 15 years. In just the last 9 years, I have over 30,000 captures on 3D. So I've been doing this quite a bit. The amount of guys whose tempos are too fast, I can count on one hand. They're all slow. Their transition sequence is out of order, so they feel fast. Their tempo's too slow. It's amazing. I had one guy swear up and down to me that he had the fastest backswing in the history of the world. I showed him on this. His tempo was 5-1. And so what did we do? I laid out 8 balls and said, walk and swing. And that was our wow factor. We did that twice. By the end, he went from hosel rocketing half his balls to hitting them dead flush. He goes, I'm just hitting these 10 yards farther than I've hit any ball in my life. You think that's a client for life? Just some simple fix for a guy who was convinced that he knew what he was doing wrong.
Do you remember the numbers on that 5 to, what was it, 5 to 1?
He was like 5-1. His backswing was like 1.3, 1.4. Downswing is 0.3. It was
Seconds, 1.3,
seconds.
1.4 seconds.
The average tour player with a
That's
6
slow.
iron is like 0.75 and 0.25. And so we're like, yeah, you're fast. So showing them these points, it gives them cold, hard data that it's really hard to argue with, because you're over 10 swings too. This is how we get this wow moment. So we call it the big red flag, or the low-hanging fruit. This is what we want to do in that initial lesson. Find out what's the easiest thing I can make them smile and leave, right? But not before they're like, wow, that was the most incredible thing, but he's laid out a process for me to even get better, and this is how we do it. There we go. Now I have a long-term client. It's part of the reason I used to do everything in packages, 3, 5, 10, no memberships at all. And some months were good, some months are bad. Everybody's gone through that roller coaster. And finally I was just like, I have a facility, I have a place, I'm gonna do memberships and memberships only. My most expensive membership, just on average, is I have a $10,000 membership.
For how long?
That's 6 months.
How much?
$10,000 for 6 months. They can see me see me and my staff as much as they want. Anytime, I sell 5 of them. I do 50 members. Right now I'm at 42. We max out at 5 of those, and then we have other ones where guys come in weekly, or come in bi-weekly, every other week. But in our place, how I've monetized this even more is I have K players. So when you come in, I've talked to the teaching professional, say, hey, what are we working on? Here's what I found in my evaluation. What do you see in their golf swing? Well, I guess I just met JJ today, face to face. We've talked a lot because we have a mini tour player that we share. But we've been able to communicate now for the last, 6-8 months. And JJ says, hey, I need him to do this. I program it in my computer when he's home. At least when he's practicing with me, it's the same thing he wants. And so I have a Bluetooth key, comes in, suits up, practices, leaves, works out. It allows them to get this value increase, and they're getting better. Other little examples is last year we had a new golfer. She was averaged about 92, 93, 15 years old, came in through the program. This summer she shot 4 rounds in the 60s. So just by putting in the work, and her instructor every time is like, man, every time she comes in, we can actually work on things. Like we can build on what we were doing before, because that's the hard part, is if we don't structure people really well, they're not going to practice well. And if they're practicing well, what are they doing? Getting better faster. Are they leaving you if they're getting better? No way.
One important thing to note, so with the big red flag, make sure before you start the evaluation, you have that pre-conversation with the player. Find out what those pain points are, right? Because it's going to make it easier for you to then from the eval connect the dots between the big red flag and then them putting 5 in the water on 17, right? So you try to make that connection because that's going to go into that emotional connection and that wow moment.
And you can use any club in the bag. Just ask them what it is. We had a guy the other day who hated the shot on 14 with a wedge at his home course. We were out there with his instructor. It's a slight downhill lie with a wedge. We did the capture. He set up with high numbers of side bend. So what did he do off a downslope? High numbers of side bend. All we did is we changed the ranges to give him less side bend and went out to the same slope. Had him hit first 5 balls. He knocked like 2 of them inside of 5 feet. He was done. So use it to your advantage. You don't have to use drivers. Use your knowledge to just use the tools now. I could tell him to be flatter, but even when he was on the slope, he thought he was trying to lean with a slope, but he didn't know the difference in his head. So as soon as he got the music, I was like, when you hear the music, you can swing. He got to the music, swung, and hit him solid. It's really that fast. Because doesn't matter. Have anybody used biofeedback on themselves? Have you used it on yourself?
Oh, yeah.
How weird does it feel? Like when you think you're in positions?
It's a workout. You know what it is? It's a workout.
Yeah.
You know what it is.
Oh.
There are
If they don't get that sample and taste of success right away, it's really hard to turn them long term. Like it doesn't have to be huge, but
Yes. Would it be a good idea to make those changes in the gym?
it depends on the player. And we'll talk.
That's what you're getting. You're getting a workout in your practice. If you've got somebody on a K player, you can just replace. You can really almost just replace some functional training with one or two of these.
Right.
Yeah.
So on that point, I don't want to get too far off in the weeds here, but I go through a progression with players, okay? So there's a 5-step progression that I like to take. The first step of that progression, they don't even have a club or a ball, okay? They're just making the movement, right? And that might be enough to make a meaningful difference. So as we start to filter more and more complexity on, right, it's going to get harder and harder. So we'll go from no club, no ball, then I'll introduce a club, but no ball, make the motion without hitting a ball. Then we add the ball, then we'll add the target, and then we'll add pressure, right? So I've worked with a lot of juniors, I do games with them, a lot of pressure situations. So just keep adding the complexity on. From step 1 that I just mentioned to you to step 5 are completely different areas that you would be in with a player, right? And it might take a long time to get there for their motion to stay the same from when they don't have a ball to when not only do they have a ball, but now they have to hit towards a target with pressure or, at the very best, on the golf course, right? One ball, got to get it done, right? So, yes.
I'm talking about in a gym with K-Vest on.
Absolutely, yes. No doubt, no doubt.
But in your teaching bay, you could have a medicine ball, a resisted tube, and sometimes making them feel the muscles they're supposed to use might be that flashpoint. It could be their wow moment. And also, you can use that biofeedback the same way. Is if you give them a range and they're not able to reach it, you have to be very aware that good chance it's a physical problem. It's not if you tell them where they're supposed to go and you show them a couple times and they're like bam, 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 they get it. It was a concept issue. They didn't know better. Oh, I'm supposed to be there? Oh, okay. That's great. That's what it feels like. Ah, now I get it. But if they're struggling and they're pouring down sweat and they're only getting the tone 1 out of 5, if you don't have a trainer or somebody you work with and trust on your staff, you should find one, because that's a real simple fix. Because you could say, hey, let's go train this in the gym. If you can do this in the gym, now when you come back and see me, we're ready to rock and roll.
Concepts, motor patterns, physical limitations. Concepts are going to be the easiest and the quickest to change. Motor patterns, they've been swinging the same way for 30 years, more difficult. Physical limitations and injuries are going to be the most difficult, if at all.
And on the first page, if you have people who come in complaining of low back problems, and there's minor or major reverse spine angle, explain this to them. It is the leading cause of back pain in golf. It is not if you're going to get hurt, it is when and how bad. I've been doing this for 15 years. I have one person that went into reverse spine angle that does not have back problems. One. And that was such a special case, we shared it quite a bit among, I've known Greg for a long time, and something we've talked about. He had a hitch in his swing that his friends made fun of him for, but the pause allowed him to rotate to get back into good spine angle before he accelerated. And that's how he saved his back. Conversation was, do you want to get rid of the hitch? Massive swing overhaul. Do you want to play with the hitch and move better? So that was his choice. I gave him that choice and said, here are 2 paths to do that.
Might be simple. What is the time frame for a lesson you use when you're doing K-vest and other stuff?
It depends. This initial one time, I'm going to try to get him out in 30 minutes. Like that first time, if I cannot give you improvement in 30 minutes, that's when you have this much data at your fingertips. I mean, 30 minutes, it gives you some time to also then, we'll talk about this at the end, is making sure you're booking them out. You've already established that. You're taking that contract, that payment of saying here, oh, here's my 10-pack. We're going to book all 10 lessons right now. Because research shows that if you book a 10-pack, the average golfer only uses 6 of them. They'll leave 4 just sitting there. But if you've planned it out, they'll appreciate it. I do that with my year-long clients. They pick a time in a day, we book them out for a year, because if they travel, it's easier to reschedule one than go time to time to time. And then they get less frustrated because they know they have a standing time every week, every other week, that type of thing.
Tony, I think it's going to come down to your sales process, and how refined you can get it, right? In the beginning, you might need a little more time, right, to kind of close that sale or whatever you're trying to do. And then from there, you might filter it down, right? So depends on.
And this is where you just use your knowledge base to choose that right activity. I cannot tell you how powerful biofeedback is on a person who's never been in biofeedback before or never had that feel. It blows them away. I mean, it is the most powerful, quick tool out there of getting them to buy in. Because if they feel it, it's amazing the changes they make in just contact in 1 or 2 swings. And don't be scared in that to tell them, hey, so if you're doing something where you're adding side bend at the top of the backswing, they're going to feel like they're going to stick the club in the ground. That's just going to be their thought, and that's what everybody says. This is a lot of experience. They're here, they're like, oh crap, before I was here and I was still fatting it. Man, if I stay in posture, bad news. The funny thing is they almost all thin them. Because now once you're down here, they actually start pushing and rotating. They've created lift, and they almost all hit like the first swing. I've watched people come over the top of them, like middle half of the ball, and I'll explain to them, listen, your old swing, if you had to stay down, so you were like broken down here, all of a sudden you just cleared right there. Try to get the ground for me. And then it's night and day. I mean, that first solid shot is pretty amazing. As a golfer myself, playing a lot of competitive golf, that solid shot, nothing feels better. Everybody in here can probably relate to that. That's just the greatest feel. So you give somebody that feel, and they hear the sound difference. They're like, man, I don't remember my ball sounding that way. You got them. They're hooked.
Jason, when you're going through the evaluation process, you're hitting 5 and 5, something happens, whatever, can you delete a shot?
The software actually it'll recognize something that's way out of whack. It'll kick it, so maybe it'll only do like 4 and 1 and.
Yeah, Michael's best to answer that. So can you delete a swing? Can you go back into the motions, into the individual cue in the client manager, delete a swing and relaunch the eval with just 4?
Yep.
Okay, great. So you can go in and delete, right? If you think there
and
was
it won't
one.
populate, if there's like numbers that are way off, it won't populate that one.
So it won't factor it in.
Yep.
So you really don't need to delete it.
Yeah, you don't have to. If you're in that one-time lesson, you don't even have to delete it. Because it'll just only factor in the 4 because it realizes that like something happened.
That was an outlier.
Yeah, that was an outlier. And you'll see it in the positional stuff. Also, you'll see this one dot that's way outside of everything else. You can pretty much assume that was the kind of the weird swing.
So in terms of choosing the right activity, let's just talk about that for a second. So again, that right activity is the one that you feel is linked to the pain point of the student, right? I'm hooking it off the planet. As a coach, you go into the evaluation, you figure out why you think they're hooking it off the planet, choose the activity to work on that's going to make the biggest impact on that, and then that's the activity that you should start with. You might also want to throw in there something they're doing well so they don't freak out completely, right? So give them some confidence, tell them where they need the improvement, choose the activity to make that biggest change, and then confirm it now with the tiles, right? So then you get them hitting balls again. Hey, let's just go hit 10, 15 more balls. Numbers are populating. hey, look at, path has changed, body's changed, not path and face obviously for us, but that's changed. The ball flight's different. We made some serious progress.
And when you're doing that first biofeedback, go without a club. Show them the movement first without the club involved, and prove to them that they can do it. Really important. Then the funny thing is half of them you give a club, they won't get the tone again. And now you're like, all right, see the problem here.
There's the progressions, right? They can do it with no club, can't do it with a club. Can do it with a club, can't do it with a ball. Can't do it with a target, right? So use that as a ladder, right? A progression ladder, and it's not linear, right, in one way. They're going to move up the ladder and down the ladder, right? So let them know that ahead of time. It's okay, we're adding a new level of complexity into things right now. We're going to expect you to regress a little bit because we're making it more complex. If they understand that, they're going to be more okay with it than saying, oh, I got to start all over again, kind of thing like that. So make sure you just communicate that piece, and it's going to be really powerful.
And if you haven't tried it with clients before, have them go body club, and then put a ball. It's 3 different swings. I mean, it really is 3 different swings. And when they actually learn and progress, and they can go from 1 to 2 to 3 and do it all the same, like they feel awesome. I mean, it's a great feeling. And so that kind of goes into that developing the long-term plan. I do not let them leave my facility without giving them my expectations for a long-term plan. I've talked to them beforehand. I've talked to them as we're working together. If they're going to be a one-off person, I want to kind of know that up front, and I'm like, here's my package for that, but I don't work that way. Like, I want you to get better. I can give you a little improvement in this one. You just got that wow. I want you to get better long term. That is why you're probably truly here, right? That goes into your small talk and your questionnaire beforehand. Why are you here? It's like we said, Andy Hilt talks about all the time, is that pain point. It's finding that pain point for them. Why don't they want to play with their friends? I want you to play more. I want you to do better. But if you, in that first page, you have the comment section. When we're done, I'm going to fill out that comment section. I'm going to say, here's what we talked about. Here's what we're going to do. On my side, I might say, hey, I'm going to talk to your swing coach. We're going to come up with some ideas. We're going to work together on a team. We're all going to pull the same direction, but here's what I found. Type it out. Here's what you did well. So this, man, I know you struggled with shoulder plane, but man, your posture, your setup address posture was awesome. We normally start there, and you've got it down, so we can go to step 2. And so now they have that little win to go with it, kind of stroking that ego a little bit. We all have, right? You never want to leave a place feeling like complete garbage.
Keep in mind as well, you're always going to have those students that come in, you go through this process to get them into a long-term student, it just doesn't happen. Well, don't look at it as a loss. Try and turn that one, even though it's a one-time person, right then and there, wow them so well that they turn into a referral, right? So that they tell their friends. I can guarantee you follow this process, you're going to get more that follow the long-term play than not. And then that person who's not coming back is going to see their buddies beating them on the golf course, and they're going to turn around and probably come back in your door, right? So it's not lost if that one person does it. Just treat it like a potential referral, and then on the back door, they'll probably come back.
By the way, this should never, ever, ever be free. Never. They get it for free if they sign up long-term. I don't charge you for that session. All right? This is your time. Your time is valuable. Charge for it. This could be like a $99, $125 first time, and yeah, we might work together when you ask 30 minutes, but then I'm going to take that next 15 minutes just to kind of wrap things up into a bow. Or if they're having a great experience, it gives me time to go a little over to make sure they continue that great experience. So it's not, but a lot of times, like you said, if you get the people doing biofeedback, 10 minutes, they're exhausted. Like, I have more people tap out in 10 minutes. And they're just like, man, that was awesome, but holy crap, I'm going to be sore tomorrow. And we literally just did backswing loading patterns. It's like they'll actually shorten the lesson on you because they'll get to a point where all of a sudden the tone won't happen. And that's a great sign. Like, hey, guess what? Your body's saying it's not physically ready to do this many times. let's build to it. I'd rather have you do 15 high quality reps than 100 swings. Bad if you're a range owner, I'm sorry. So using that biofeedback will help you build that plane, because now with your systems, you can save their name, you can save their information, and you're like, hey, guess what, that worked really well. I'm gonna save this in a program for you. Next time you come back, I'm just gonna look up your name, hit the button, load your program, and here we go. Here's our next lesson. This is where we're gonna start right from this point next time you walk in the door. I have structure. Give your players structure. As much as they say they don't want structure, they need structure. They will argue with you. I'm lucky I have a bunch of super A-type personalities that I work with. Oh, I tell them when, what, and how. I don't give them a choice. They appreciate that. They're gonna push back hard, but I'm gonna push the same way. It's gonna make them more successful. Long-term clients, right now in our membership, the average membership has lasted about 4.5 years. That's my average clientele of my members. 4.5 years I've been working with them. Constantly building and expanding. There's little like ebbs and flows. Before I went into that, I'd get these 3-month drop-offs. They wouldn't do anything. I'll get this call in September, oh man, I'm hurting again, I'm blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, well, now we gotta start over again. So now, even during your slow period, I have check-ins set up. So like even during the winter, if you don't have an indoor facility, you could still set up something where you can do check-ins with your students, kind of keep them on task and on track. Maybe you'll set up part of your deal of golf school somewhere. Like, hey, well, I'll go do this as like a week-long thing. Just give them more structure, they'll be thankful, and you'll be surprised what you can do with it. And how much better they get, then the referrals just come. Like I said, we're 99% referral.
Paul, do you have a question?
Yeah, about your assessment that you do for most people first commit. Is it a half hour, an hour?
I do 30 minutes with this one.
About 30, and then so you just capture, you do 6-iron and driver both?
Yeah, I do 6-iron and driver. Look for the biggest problem.
You're using the evaluation, then you will write into biofeedback with whatever it spits out?
Immediately, right away. First thing I do.
Yeah, so you give that wow factor with that.
Exactly.
And then what do they have to sign up for that to be free, like 6 months?
Yeah, my memberships are all 6 or 12 months, so it's one or the other. If you get that, it's free. And then and I always tell them I have a full evaluation too. Like this, I call this like this is my sample. Kind of let me show you what we do, because a lot of times, do players really know what we do?
No.
So what's the best way to talking to them over the phone? Is it the best way to tell them what you do?
No.
It's for them to come and experience what you do, right? Use your knowledge, use you to do that. So I have, this is a lower price point. My full evaluation starts at $600.
And does that include like TPI square?
Yeah, so I screen them. Our first appointment and our first evaluation is 2 hours. For me, personally, I do $600, 4 hours, 2 hours the first day, 2 hours the second day. I screen them for the first 2 hours. They do all the full 3D eval, full physical assessment, head to toe. I know more about you when you leave than you want me to know. And that's what I explained to them. We're going to build you a program now. This is how we're going to structure that. Even if you don't have a membership, I won't do a single one-off without doing that first. Not the way we, sorry if that's what you're looking for, it's not the way we operate, but I have some other people that can help you.
What's the second 2 hours?
Follow-up. We'll go through and we'll talk more in depth about what's going on. For me, like I said, I'm in a gym setting. I'm going to do more biofeedback. I'm going to actually design each person their own personalized workout. Here's what we have to do. Here's the areas that we're going to work on, accomplish. But you can do the same thing throughout the game. If you have a second day one, you're going to be like, all right, here's the short game drills we're going to work on. Here are the putting drills we're going to work on. And give them that full experience. I give them a book. I take pictures of everything. I have, anybody here use WhatsApp? By the way, WhatsApp's a free app. It's the greatest way to send videos in the world. No limit on size. So I will film guys doing exercises and send them to them in WhatsApp of them doing them. Even though they have, like I use TPI, they have the TPI database and they all get assigned that. If they don't want to do that, I will literally film them as we're going through that workout with my phone and send them the workout afterwards.
Any other questions? Yes.
If we're trying to transition from
the 3 lesson, 5 lesson, 10 lesson package into the monthly program, what would be your advice on how to transition? Because we've got 6, 7, 8 instructors, and we've got multiple people doing in that setting.
After you have that wow moment, sit down with them and explain the full plan, which needs a full program, right? We can't get it done in 3 or 5, right? So give them the full picture. Yeah, give them the full picture, get their buy-in, right? Here's what we did today. You wowed them, there's their buy-in. Now, okay, here's where we want to go. Here's the timeline of how we want to do it, and then close the deal there.
And you can book out. Book out lots of time in advance. And if you have a facility, it could hopefully lead to a little more collaboration between everybody at that point too. Because if you have a guy who goes on vacation or one of your instructors leaves, you can maybe say like, hey, everything's already built in there. That's one of the great things about. Guess what? If I could build something, I can give it to JJ. He could pretty much give the instruction to the student. So if I have to travel, which I do quite a bit, my staff takes care of all of my personal clients, and I ask them all the time with my clients, and they're like, dude, I love training with them. I love, it's sometimes hearing a different voice once in a while isn't a bad thing, but they're back, but it helps keeping that flow and that improvement plan in place. Because like I said, it takes 4 to 6 weeks to create an actual habit. So if you haven't practiced, it's why we always joke New Year's resolution. The gyms are packed for the first 4 to 6 weeks, and it hasn't become a habit, and then it's ghost town again. It's tough to work these packages. The more you do them, I hate selling things. Absolutely hate it. And it's really hard. I grew up in a small, tiny Midwestern town, and now I live in DC. The cost difference of what I associate with a cost and what I grew up associating with a cost, it was really hard to put a value on your time, but you have to put a value on your time. Otherwise, you're just going to beat your head against a wall. I got punched in the head many times by people who were like, you have to value your time more. Because I love helping people. I want to make people better. It's really easy just to go do it. And then you forget to charge them. And like we were saying, I was in a seminar yesterday. Like the worst feeling is they're walking away like, sir, I forgot to pay. You forgot to pay. Come on. And it's not the situation anybody really wants to be in. And so we just went to this. But I'm lucky. I have a facility that I run. I opened it 9 years ago. I own it, so it gives us some of that flexibility. But I have 4 staff under me at my facility. But you can do that I've worked in green grass clubs. You can do the same thing. It's actually pretty nice. It's freeing up your time.
And how do you distinguish between membership and just like a program?
If you come in, my only option is like a one-on-one, and I charge a boatload. If my normal, like a membership, they broke down the rate, it might be $110, $125 an hour. If you just come off the street, you're $225. If you want to see me once, I'm more than happy to see you once. You're going to pay for it.
And you still spend half an hour with them?
No, I might spend it, would be an hour-long session.
I was gonna say, yeah.
But you're going to, it depends on what your model is and where you are. I've decided to make a choice that I want to work with players who want to get better. I don't care. I have 30, 35, 40 handicappers. If you want to put in a little work, my philosophy is I'm going to treat you exactly like I'm going to treat a tour player. I don't care who you are. You could walk in off the street. I'm like, sir, nice to meet you. I'm going to treat you just like any tour player I have. I'm going to give you the same attention. You can text me. You can do that. I'm going to respond. It gives them value. It's being nice, and that's why I told you my average client's more than 4.5 years old. Have been with me for that long. We have very little turnover.
All right, everyone, thanks for your time. Really appreciate it. Again, if you can spare 30 seconds, see Mason in the back to do a interview or testimonial.